I wasn't able to kind of make decisions and stand by them. I had a really deep sense of sort of imposter syndrome. My confidence sort of plummeted. I was kind of questioning myself, things that I was doing.
Because the moment I was like, no, I'm not going on payroll, I need to invoice. They were like, all right, let's add. I had my child at 16. So I was more like, no, I can't do that. They're like, Charles, why is everything wrong with you? You're holding a baby and holding an infant.
And I spent the money on the offices and we were getting it all kitted out and we had a launch and everything. And literally within 4 weeks, the turnover plummeted. And I kept thinking next month it'll be better and started plowing in money to keep the business going, to keep the staff on.
I didn't really have that much money. I had my savings, but I don't come from a family privilege. I come from a working class family. So I had all of these kind of barriers that at the time I didn't realize were barriers. I just got on with it and just moved. I moved without thinking. I had an idea.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of She's the Boss, Female Entrepreneur Stories, where I'm joined by phenomenal entrepreneurs from all over the world, from every different industry and from a variety of different backgrounds, with the aim of motivating, inspiring, empowering you on your entrepreneurial journey. As usual, if you haven't pressed that subscribe button, please make sure that you do so that you don't miss out when I release a new interview. And if you're not already following on social media, what are you waiting for? Head over to Instagram and follow at She's the Boss UK, which is where I spend most of my time. You can also catch me on LinkedIn, Daniela Genus, and on Facebook, She's the Boss, Daniela Genus. I'm also on Twitter occasionally, and that's at She's the Boss INTF. Today, I'm really excited because I am joined by Jamelia Donaldson, who is the founder and CEO of TreasureTress, as well as the co-creator of the Teen Experience. Jamelia, you do a lot. Tell us more about TreasureTress and about the Teen Experience and about your journey to starting both of those businesses.
Sure. And well, thank you for that intro. As far as TreasureTress, I'll start with what it is, and then I'll kind of work backwards as far as like how the idea came about and where we've grown to. So TreasureTress, as it stands, is Europe's largest monthly product discovery box for women and girls with naturally kinky curly hair. So for consumers, we make sure that they can access high quality products for an affordable price. And for brands, we're almost the translator or the bridge between authentic content, authentic community, and their products. TreasureTress was started for a few different reasons. One reason being that I've always been absolutely obsessed with hair and beauty. And from about the age of 4, I started doing my own hair because I used to get really frustrated with how my mum done my hair. I never liked it. And then I got into my early teens and I became really frustrated with the fact that it felt like my hair wasn't growing. So I used to straighten my hair regularly and it would always stay about bob length. And I remember Googling, like, what do you have to do to make black hair grow? And that was like the first opening for me into like this whole world of blogs and loads of spaces online where Black women were just sharing all of their beauty secrets. And then fast forward to about 2012, 13, my brother and his partner were expecting their first daughter. And one of my first thoughts was, I don't want her to come into the world and think that she isn't beautiful enough or think that her natural hair isn't beautiful. And so all of those things worked together. And then I started my career, let me go back. I was in university, decided to do a placement abroad. And I spent 1 month in Beijing and I spent 9 months in New York. And when I was in New York, I discovered lots of different subscription boxes because that was when they were starting to pop up everywhere. So there was ones for dog food, for sweets, for socks, makeup, hair, you name it. And there were also several for Black women. But when I looked back at the UK market, there weren't any for Black women in particular focused on natural hair. So all of those different factors kind of worked together to help me form the decision that when I get back to the UK, if there isn't already a subscription box that caters to natural hair, then I'm going to create it. So got back to the UK, had been interning abroad for a year, unpaid. So my first priority was, number one, getting something that was paid. So thankfully, I got a role at an asset management firm in the city, and they offered me their graduate scheme. So that was like a slight detour because, again, my idea was that when I get back to the UK, I'm going to launch this business. But then my attention almost got diverted because I needed to make money because I hadn't made money for a whole year. And I didn't have any handouts waiting for me when I got back. So I embarked on my career in finance. And by year 2, I still had this niggling feeling about this idea that I have to act on before someone else does. And so I made the decision to launch the Instagram literally off the side of my desk at work. In my breaks, I would take calls and do some cold calling to contact various different brands. And then I launched while I was still working. So then in my lunch break, I'd run into the toilet, grab my laptop and do customer service. And then it got to the point where it was impossible to balance the two. So I made quite a bold decision to decide that I would take a risk with this business. And if it works, wonderful. If it doesn't work, it's fine, because I've got good relationships with the team that I work with. And so if I needed to do a U-turn, I'm sure they would accept me. So that's the backstory on TreasureTress. I'll keep the teen experience a little shorter because I'm sure you've got other questions. The teen experience is a series of personal development workshops. And that was created, again, based on my personal experience as a Black woman, as a Black girl. I spent a lot of time at like Friday clubs, youth clubs, Wednesday club, every kind of after school club. I was there, and that was my way of building friendships, forming new relationships and forming interpersonal skills. But in today's world, those don't exist. So looking at younger girls, I could see that there was lots of things to do for like babies, toddlers, that really young age, under 7s. There was lots to do for women over 18, but there was this weird spot in between where there wasn't anything catered to you. Everything was either too young or too old. And so I decided to fill that void with an idea called the teen experience. And I started reaching out to a lot of different women in my network, one of which was Simone Powderly, who expressed that she would be really interested in helping me bring the idea to life, as opposed to just coming and being a workshop host. So long story short, we launched it together. And that was maybe about 4 years ago now.
Wow. So you do a lot, as I said before. And I want to go back. So you said you started your career in finance. What did you study at university?
I studied business and international relations.
Oh, well, that makes sense then why you did
I would say, the funny story is though, that's not what I wanted to study.
Oh.
I wanted to study law, but instead of doing A-levels, I'd done the International Baccalaureate, which is 7 subjects. And on one of the subjects being French, I scored lower than I was predicted. And so I missed out on the points that I was required to study law. So I was absolutely devastated. I thought my life was going to end. I thought my dream had come to an end. And then the only other course that they had available that looked relatively appealing was business and international relations. And I didn't choose it because I was interested in business. I chose it because it had international in the title and I love traveling. So yeah, that was one of those like serendipitous moments where I was like, oh, I didn't plan to study business, but everything kind of worked out in my favor, which kind of led me on the path to launch TreasureTress.
And we went to the same university, Aston. Let's give a shout out to Aston Business School. Yeah. Spent many a happy day and miserable afternoon in the library.
Well, nights for me in the library.
So I assume then when you was growing up, entrepreneurship wasn't necessarily something at the forefront of your brain.
Not in that language, but when I look back, I can see signs that I had always been quite self-starting. Like, for example, when I was in school, I learned how to do my own hair, and then in break times, I would charge people to do their hair. And that for me, that now that I look back, is like, oh, that was actually my first business, and I didn't even realize it. The second thing, that me and my best friend, we used to make up dances and we used to handwrite these invitations for people to come and watch our show, and we would have a ticket price on there. Obviously, no one bought it. But now that I look back, I'm like, oh, that was actually an indicator for what I would be doing later on in life. So yeah, quite a funny story that.
No, it's funny. So I used to do the exact same thing. So I don't do hair at all now. Like, it stresses me out. I'm not interested. But I used to get really annoyed with my mom trying to do my hair. She couldn't do it, so she'd send me to the hairdressers and it used to hurt. So I learned to do my own hair quite young. And then I always remember in maths class, braiding people's hair and getting kicked out of the class and during lunch breaks. So that was my first little hustle, doing friends' hair and getting paid for it. I'm sure it's like 50p. But
every little time.
Yeah. So when and I ask this question quite a lot, particularly when guests have been to university and then taken kind of a different route. When you made that decision to leave your work, first of all, was there a kind of trigger point within the business that you said, once I get there, then I'm going to have to leave? Or did you just get to that point and realize? And what was the opinion of those around you? Because you're in a lot of people's dream position to then kind of decide, I'm going to go it alone and take a U-turn kind of, or left turn and go in a completely different direction.
Yeah. So to answer your first question, was the point at which I decided to leave.
Yeah.
So I didn't necessarily set like I did set somewhat of a financial goal. I knew that I wanted to make sure that we were actually generating revenue. So I didn't want to leave work pre-launch, and I wanted to make sure that I could actually build a decent customer base. Now that I look back, it wasn't really that decent because I only had 30, I think I had about between 30 and 100 subscribers when I decided to leave. But the main trigger for me was my body, because I started getting really bad anxiety attacks every time I was getting ready to go to work. But that was very much linked to exhaustion, because I was waking up at 5, working on TreasureTress for 2 hours, showering and literally running to work, where the hours should be between 7:30 and 7 p.m. So really, really long days, coming back home, working on TreasureTress till about 1, sleeping for 4 hours and doing it again and again and again, which was not sustainable. So for me, regardless of whether or not I felt like I was where I wanted to be in the business, I knew that for me to even survive, I needed to make the sacrifice and make the decision. It was either going to be that I sacrificed TreasureTress so that I could focus on my career in the city, or I sacrificed my career in the city for TreasureTress and see what happens. And I was 23 at the time. And I was like, look, I don't have any major commitments that I wouldn't be able to cover otherwise. So let me just take this risk on myself and see what happens. And now that I look back, I'm like, that was actually the perfect time for me to make that decision and to take that gamble, because I had the rest of my 20s to recover if it went wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my decision.
Were people side-eyeing you though? Like, what is this girl doing?
You know, it wasn't all roses. It was a lot of panic, primarily because my mum's an educator, and so she's used to things working in a very particular. For her, leaving a really stable job to do something that could work or could fail just seemed absolutely ridiculous. And I just remember saying, when my grandma came over from Jamaica to the UK, if she would have dreamt to be earning how much I was in the city, it made me feel really guilty. Oh gosh, like, am I taking it for granted? But then, I don't know, there was still a piece of me that was like, no, there's still so much more that you can do. So I wasn't necessarily encouraged. And to be honest, I put it off for a year because I wanted to hand in my notice the year before. And I told my mum that, oh, by the way, I'm thinking of doing this. And she told all of her friends who were calling my phone nonstop to tell me that it was a bad idea, don't do it. And so all of that got to me. So I delayed it for a whole year. And then eventually I got to the point where I was like, no, I can't do both. And I want to do TreasureTress more than I want to work in the city. And then I told my family the day before my last day, because I knew then it was too late. And regardless of what anyone said, I couldn't turn back. So it wasn't, no one understood it. And I think it's because they hadn't seen it before, or hadn't seen it before this intimate or within their social circle. So it wasn't easy. But I don't know, my instinct was a lot stronger and I knew what I needed to do for myself. So that kind of overruled it.
I love that. And I think that's such a powerful story. And I like to ask that question to quite a few of my guests, because I think there's probably people that are sitting at home watching and listening who want to take that leap, or have even taken that leap, and their friends, their family, the people that they love aren't necessarily encouraging them and supporting them in the way that they think or hope that they would, and kind of feel like they're on their own. And actually, many of us have been there. I've been there. I started my first business when I was 22, I believe. And at that point, I'd been to university. I was doing my master's. And I remember my mom was just like, this is ridiculous. Go and get a job. What are you doing? So I think it's amazing as well, and a testament to your drive that all of her friends was calling you still went ahead and did it anyway. Has there been a specific point on the journey, and we're going to talk about some of your key successes shortly, but was there a particular point where your mum has, or has it even come, where your mum has said, okay, clearly you did the right thing?
Not the right thing, no. But she is my biggest supporter. She's like the biggest TreasureTress stan ever, but she's never said, oh, I was a bit wrong. Instead, she said like, oh, you've got really good foresight and like, you're very determined and I'm proud of you. But no, she's never necessarily gone back on her way. But, Caribbean parents.
Well, I was going to say, you did mention that your family's Jamaican, as are mine. So I understand how that one goes. So you made the decision, you kind of started the business, and again, to take a step back a little bit, you decided to create this subscription box. How did you go about kind of sourcing the items and also getting customers in the first place? Because I think that's sometimes a barrier to people wanting to start. How do I even get a customer?
Yeah. So we have two types of customers. We call them customers and then clients. Mm-hmm. So we've got B2B customers and B2C customers. Mm-hmm. Getting B2C customers was easier because I was literally building a community from scratch about something that I was really passionate about, and I was connecting with other women on this passion. Mm-hmm. B2B was a lot more challenging because I didn't have any pre-existing relationships in the industry at all. Mm-hmm. I knew absolutely no one in the beauty space. So I was cold calling, I was cold emailing, I was going to all of the networking events, all of the industry events to build my network from scratch. So that was a lot harder than building the B2C relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And once you started building those B2B relationships, so I've had clients that have subscription boxes, and one of the things that sometimes they found challenging was making sure that consistently the boxes had stuff in every month. Have you run into any challenges throughout the journey where you have been like, oh my gosh, what's going on this month? We don't have enough things.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's definitely happened. Definitely. I think the worst month was as a result of COVID. So mm-hmm. we were at our warehouse waiting on, there were two instances actually, but both instances we were waiting at our warehouse, waiting for a delivery to find out that the brand or the supplier had run into manufacturing issues or delivery issues and it wasn't going to arrive on time. And one instance in particular was in lockdown 1.0, when factories had just completely shut and a lot of brands didn't actually have access to the premises to get access to their products to ship them out. So that was an absolute nightmare. But I feel like from every challenge, there's something that you can learn. Mm-hmm. Either one, it's going to push you and challenge you creatively, so you come up with a creative solution, or two, it's going to teach you a really important operational lesson that you need to keep in mind for building your business next. Mm-hmm. So they're very painful when they happen, when things don't go to plan, when there's fallouts along the supply chain. But again, for me, the lesson is, okay, how do we make it tighter? How can we secure ourselves against this going forward? And how can we be more proactive? So I think the end of the day is always a game of organization. Like, how organized can you be to get ahead of any problems, to make sure that when they do happen, you have a plan B, or to make sure that you're able to find a creative solution to overcome the challenge.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but systems and processes, that's the thing I'm hot on. And I can imagine in a business like yours, making sure that you have robust systems and processes must be essential.
It's very important.
So when you've had those moments of sheer panic and everything's kind of not going in the way that it's supposed to, how have you, so my motto, think big, take action, keep pushing. How do you keep pushing? Where does that inner kind of motivation come from? And not even just how do you keep pushing, how do you not just panic? Or how do you keep pushing through the panic is probably a better way of phrasing it.
Yeah, keep pushing through the panic, definitely. I don't know, I feel like I'm quite a solution-oriented person. Mm-hmm. So there are people, and sometimes even people on my team will default to dwelling on what the problem is. Mm-hmm. And I'm not really interested in the problem. Let's just figure out what we're going to do to fix it, because the problem, no one feels sorry for us. No one's coming to save us. We have to just figure it out for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And for me, knowing that I'm a Black woman and I service primarily Black women, I feel an even heavier responsibility and duty to make sure that I always deliver, mm-hmm. and always deliver to the best of our ability. So for me, I think that's what keeps me going. There's a stigma against Black businesses. I already know that Black women are mistreated in the beauty industry. My business was designed to fix that issue. And so I need to make sure that we actually are fixing it. And mm-hmm. any issues that we come along the way, it's kind of just the price of the game. We've just got to figure it out. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's it. I don't necessarily have any other strategies other than maybe calling one of my friends to complain. And she's quite good at just listening. Okay, cool. All right, what should we do next? And then we move on to the solution. But I don't spend very much time complaining, just because time is of the essence, especially in a business like this. And I find time to be the most valuable thing anyway. So to waste so much time dwelling on the problem just seems a bit silly.
No, I love that. And having a good and strong support network to rant to that will just let you rant is invaluable. I have a group of my ranting friends, and sometimes it will just be, hi, I'm just going to rant. Brrr. Okay, thank you. Bye. It's off my chest. Now we continue. We get on with the day. And yeah, you're right. Time is definitely of the essence, just generally. And I think even the last kind of, 14 months of this COVID scenario has really kind of shown us that we don't have time to sit around and wait, because everything can change in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So you've achieved a lot of press success. So I've seen you featured in lots of different kind of publications, etc. How have you gone about that? Is it been pushed? Like you said, okay, I need to build my personal profile to help push the brand, or has it been people just approaching you because they see how fantastically you're doing?
I would say that it's a bit of both. By far, mainly organic, because I don't have the time now, and I haven't had the luxury of the time in the past to dedicate time to doing that for myself. So like my first ever press feature was The Voice newspaper, and that headline basically spoke to the fact that I had quit my job in finance to launch TreasureTress. And that's not something that I actively sought out. That's just something that just happened. And then I do get regular inquiries. At the moment, we are working with a PR firm because we've got so many new launches coming up, which has helped give my profile an extra boost. But ahead of now, it's been pretty much organic. I'm a firm believer in just doing the work, and I'm really hard on myself. So if I see myself getting a press mention, but I haven't hit the goal that I want to for the month, I don't always share it, because I get a bit of imposter syndrome, because I'm like, okay, it's great. That's a great headline, but I know what I want to achieve and I've not done it as yet. So press isn't that important to me at all. I think results speak for themselves. And so that's where I like to keep my focus.
I'm trying to stop myself from going into coach mode and asking you, why do you not feel that every win is important and should be shared? And I'm trying to not do it, but I'm just going to do it anyway. You're doing phenomenally. So even though you haven't reached the goal as yet, whatever the long-term goal is, every win is still a win and should be celebrated, irrespective of whether you feel you're there or not. The simple fact that you're where you're at and people are interested in doing any features and coverage on you indicates that where you're at, where you're trying to get to, is not necessarily the most important thing. You're clearly a role model to those looking up and watching where you're currently at. So I would just encourage you to embrace it. And in that vein, I'm going to ask, even though you say you're not that fussed about press, I'm going to ask anyway, what piece of coverage have you been the most proud of and said, actually, wow, I did that?
By far my Forbes feature, because when I was leaving my job in the city, as my goodbye present, they printed off the front page of a Forbes magazine and like cut and pasted my face on it.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, oh, that's crazy. And I put it up on my wall. And literally, then when the Forbes feature actually happened, I was like, oh my God, that's mad, because I would have never thought that it would have come to fruition so quickly. So by far Forbes, yeah.
See, pat yourself on the back, the power of manifestation, believing, and continue to push irrespective and regardless. I love that. You mentioned your team. Now, I've had teams in the past. I don't right now, and I don't think that I'm going to have for a while in the future, because I don't think I'm very good at managing people. What are some of the lessons that you've learned from having a team and managing people? And also getting people to buy into your vision, because I think particularly if you're somebody that has quite exacting standards and has a big vision, I'm sure sometimes it can be frustrating if people don't instantly buy into it or don't get as, I suppose, passionate about it as you. Or have you just found fantastic people consistently?
I have found fantastic people consistently. I have learned a lot along the way, though. That's taught me a lot about myself. And I think it's interesting trying to get a balance between understanding what's a lesson for my own personal development versus what is just a red flag and needs to get addressed and just not a good fit for my company. So I think that's an interesting, like, fine line to tread. But I have found that my favorite part about a team is like noticing the strengths in people and then being able to amplify that through the work at TreasureTress. And for me, that's the best way to bring my vision to life. As long as I can help people bring their own visions to life, and I can help them build on their own skills, and we all work together towards a bigger vision, I feel like that's the best way to work. I am not someone that enjoys managing people at all. I absolutely hate it. But again, I'm trying to consistently unpack why I hate managing people so much so that I can do a better job at it. So I know that for me at the beginning, I found it quite difficult to tell people that were older than me what to do, because I was so used to being the grad. I was used to being the graduate in the position, the only Black woman and the youngest. So I was coming from being the most, the least, not the least important, but the lowest on the pedestal to now the top of the pedestal and telling people what to do and directing people. And I know that I also used to just expect people to do things the way I would do them, because in my mind, it's common sense. It's just how you do it. But I know that common sense is not common. It means different things for different people. People like working in different ways, and that's fine. But the one thing that I know to be true is that communication is the most important thing. And so as long as my expectation is to do it this way and I communicate it, then there's no reason why it shouldn't be done that way. And if someone thinks it's a better way to do it this way and they show me that it's a better way, then cool, let's do it that way. But I think communication for me is the most important thing. The managing people thing, I'm using it as a learning opportunity for myself, but by no means do I enjoy it.
Yeah, well, everything you said, I can 100% relate. Common sense is not that common, and that's why I don't think I'm very good at managing people, because I've got quite a short fuse, and I'm like, why don't you get it? I made it so obvious. Why can't you just do it like me? But we have to understand everybody's different. Everybody's got their own strengths, etc.
Yeah, I think the thing that I always try to go back to is I wanted this person on my team for a reason. And why don't I sit back and let them do what they need to do? Because I could be wrong at the end of the day. And I recruited them to do that job because I wasn't capable of doing it, or I didn't want to do it. Yeah. So I have to sit back, let them do it. And then together we'll find a way that works well for both of us. But as I said, it is a process.
So long-term goal, we go 10 years in the future. What is Jamelia doing? What are the businesses doing?
So I've always said that I don't want TreasureTress to just be a subscription box. For me, it needs to stand for so much more. I come from a lineage of educators. Like my mum was a teacher, a head teacher, my grandma was a teacher. So for me, teaching and sharing is really, really important for me. It's important for me that TreasureTress becomes like a lifestyle household name. But in addition to that, I'm really passionate about seeing British-born brands doing the revenue figures, having the reach, having the press acknowledgement that US beauty brands do. And so I would like to acquire several brands, help them grow and expand internationally so that we have offices and warehouse facilities globally to help us with our shipping. Because at the moment, shipping to all of those countries is very expensive.
I love that. And I'm sure you will achieve it. And I look forward to seeing it happen. I'm going to go into a quick fire round now. So I'm going to give you, well, some of them are 2 examples, one's just a question, and just answer as quick as you can. Yeah. Beach or city?
Beach.
Which beach?
First thing that comes to mind is Montego Bay. So.
Well, obviously it has to be Jamaica. Fruit or veg?
Fruit.
What fruit?
Pineapple, mango.
Yeah, I was going to say mango is mine. I'm sure I'm not supposed to be answering the question. But pineapples are great too. TV or YouTube?
YouTube. Can't stand ads, don't want to watch them. Yeah. I need to have control over what I'm watching. So
do you have YouTube Premium?
No, I don't. I don't watch it that much, but I like to just skip through, get what I need and then leave.
Oh, I'm a bit of a YouTube fanatic. I have the premium version. iPhone or Samsung?
iPhone.
Happiest when?
Oh, happiest when fed and well slept and with my people.
I love that. Proudest moment?
Oh, tough one. That's a really tough one. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is getting married, and not just because I think getting married is a great like accomplishment. I feel like for women, it always is made out to be like a tick box exercise, like the epitome of what you should achieve in life. But I think for me, it was the fact that like we've journeyed through life since teenagers. And so to reach that point with the people that we love, that was a really big deal. So I'm going to say getting married.
Oh, congratulations. How long have you been married?
2 weeks.
Oh, even bigger congratulations. Wow, that's amazing. I missed that. I saw your birthday, but I missed the wedding.
I haven't posted it.
Oh, okay. Oh, now I feel privileged. Thanks for letting me know. Biggest inspiration?
The first person that comes to mind is probably my mum, because she's pretty good. She's pretty dope.
Love that. Jamelia will be remembered for?
I would like to say providing opportunities and insight for others to create their own opportunities.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I can't believe you got married 2 weeks ago. That's so phenomenal. Well done again. She's the Boss recommends a book, podcast, or any other media that has had an impact on your life that you want to share with the audience.
Can I do a book and a podcast?
You sure can.
So book, I would definitely say Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Mm-hmm. That's the book that I always mention, because I read that when I made the decision to hand in my notice and just give full-time entrepreneurship a go. Mm-hmm. And I liked it because it really interrogates what fear is and what the root of it is so that you can overcome it. Mm-hmm. And then podcasts, I would say the Lewis Howes podcast. I really, really enjoy his podcast because he has entrepreneurs, he has like spiritual guides, he has a lot of different types of people on there. And I feel like he strikes a perfect balance between personal development and business business and professional development.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that. 3 pieces of advice that you'd give to a woman or a man who's sitting watching this thinking, this sounds great, I want to get into business. What advice would you give to them?
Test. Mm-hmm. So test your idea, test it again. You don't know until you try. There's a great book called The Mum Test, which is like 25 pages long or something like that. Mm-hmm. And it basically shares that you should put your product out as quickly as possible and get as much feedback from strangers as possible, because your mum's always going to tell you that your idea is a good idea. Yeah. My second piece of advice is, I actually wrote these down. I should just make use of your intuition and don't ignore it, because outside pressures, like people will always tell you where they think you should be, and people will always project what they think on your business. Mm-hmm. But it takes a huge amount of discernment to make the right business decisions, not only for the business, but for you as well. So I would say build your resilience, but also develop really good, a really good gauge on whether or not you want to take people's advice or not, on board or not. Mm-hmm. And then my third piece of advice would be to fall in love with learning, because it's never going to end. Like every day I have to learn something new in order to keep the business growing, and even to keep your business in the same position, you need to continue to learn. So just keep learning.
Fabulous. Great advice. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for sharing your journey with us. If people want to find out more about you and about TreasureTress, what platforms can they find you on? Share your website.
Sure. So our website's actually treasuretress.co.uk. We've got a refresh coming soon, so watch out for that. It will probably be live by the time this goes out, actually. Mm-hmm. So check out our new website. Instagram at TreasureTress and at Jamelia is Obsessed, and everywhere else on the internet as TreasureTress.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for coming here, for sharing with us today, and wishing you every success with that 10-year goal and with everything in between. And make sure, as I said, that you share and you appreciate every step of the journey, even if it's not the end goal as yet. And I look forward to seeing all of these fabulous things that TreasureTress is going to achieve and accomplish. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Daniela.
And thank you, everybody, for listening, for watching. As usual, if there's anything that Jamelia has said that really resonated with you, please leave a comment. Please make sure that you like, that you share with your network. If there's anybody that you think needs to hear this conversation, please share it with them. And as usual, make sure that you press that subscribe button so that you know when I've released a new interview, because you don't want to miss them, right? I'm going to be changing now from every Sunday to every other Sunday, because I've got lots of things going on and I'm tired, basically. But they're always going to continue to be fantastic interviews. And if you are in business and you're sitting here at home and you're thinking, I really want to grow my business, or even you're in the early stages and you need some help with accelerating the growth, please get in touch. Visit my website, www.she'sthebossintl.com. I offer a combination approach of business support, combining coaching, consultancy, training, and accountability, helping you achieve 6 figures and beyond. If you don't believe me, check out the testimonials on my Instagram and the case studies on my website. I can help you build and grow a profitable, sustainable, systems-driven business that helps you sit home and relax and make some money rather than running yourself into the ground. So get in touch, email me at bookings@she'sthebossintl.com if you would like to inquire further. And remember, as always, think big, take action, and keep pushing. And also, the merchandise, if you're watching, the merchandise is now available. I'm going to be sharing, well, you probably would have seen it now, sharing all over my social media. We've got 2 tops, Think Big, Take Action, Keep Pushing, and Big Business Energy. The She's the Boss tops are going to be on the way soon. They come in sweaters, hoodies, and t-shirts in black, purple, white, and mustard, yellow, orange. I don't know what the color is. People say it's a different color. So head on over to I Got the Tea. Link will be in the notes, and you can get your orders in now. So thank you so much again, Jamelia, and thank you, everybody.